Right, I think we have enough people to start kicking things off. So welcome to this webinar on cybersecurity pathways and a live hacking demonstration. My name is Philip Blake. I am the European Director for EC Council. And just dive into a little bit of an agenda for everyone. So I'm going to give you a quick intro to EC Council and also the learning people. We're going to touch on the cybersecurity threat landscape. I'm going to run through one of the labs which are covered in the Certified Ethical Hacker training course and certification. The lab that I'll be demoing is the lab that you will be getting as a little freebie to trial. It takes about sort of 10-15 minutes. There are instructions to walk you through, but a little bit more on that later. I'm going to run through EC Council tracks and talk a little bit about some of the roles in cybersecurity and how they map, and also cover off who is looking for cybersecurity professionals, why, and why you should look for a role in cybersecurity. And we'll have if we have time at the end, we'll have a quick Q&A. I know I've got about half an hour, 45 minutes. I'm going to try and get everything done in half an hour. I've got about 30-40 slides. There are already a few questions about the slides. Yes, they will be made available to you after the webinar. So please do go back to the learning people for any questions or queries on that. So a little bit about EC Council. So globally, we are the largest cybersecurity training and certification body. We operate in over 145 countries, have multiple training programs, and we have numerous partners who run our courses globally. And with our partnership with the learning people, they are our exclusive distributor for our e-learning products in the UK and Ireland. And we work with a number of governments, multinationals, academic institutions. So if we look at the government side of things, the US Army, Navy, Department of Defense, our courses are GCHQ certified. They also sit on the Department of Defense mandate. So in terms of cybersecurity training and cybersecurity skills, we like to think we know what we're talking about. Now a little bit about our partner, the learning people. So I'd just like to emphasize that one of the reasons we chose the learning people as our exclusive partner is their fantastic and award-winning student care. So they've trained over 50,000 students globally, and they have a fantastic aftercare service where they try to sort of push you in the direction of recruitment with CV detoxes, recruitment agencies, those sorts of things. So they are proactively trying to get individuals into or transition them into cybersecurity roles. So enough about us. I know we've got to push on, otherwise we're going to get stuck. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the threat landscape. So it's no news to anyone on this webinar that cybersecurity is one of the fastest growing threats out there. If we look at the World Economic Forum in terms of how they rank their threats, in terms of likelihood, cyber attacks and data fraud are up there with natural disasters and extreme. Sorry, I've just been told that my slides aren't changing. I apologize for that. Here we go. So I'll run through. So this is the slide about EC Council. Slide about the learning people, so I'm sure you can all remember my spiel. Thank you for informing me of that. I'm sorry that it took me a little while. So we're back onto the World Economic Forum. So you can see from this slide, hopefully we can all see the slides now. Can I just get a confirmation? I think that should be yes. I think everyone can see the slides. So in terms of likelihood, cyber attacks and data fraud are up there in terms of likelihood, and in terms of their impact as well. And these were all taken in 2018, but from 2019, I think the impact we'll see gravitate towards that top position. In terms of where they sit, if you look at these sorts of cyber attacks and data fraud, theft, etc., is being on a level playing field with the likes of natural disasters, earthquakes, tornadoes, these sorts of elements. And the cost of cybercrime to businesses over the next 5 years is expected to be $8 trillion US, and I think that's actually gone up since the 2018 statistics. So we are obviously cybersecurity is a growing industry and a growing threat to governments, countries, organizations, and academic institutions globally. So I'm going to run through a couple of examples. Now, the two that I like to use are the Bank of Bangladesh heist. So in short, they attempted to get away with just shy of $1 billion from the Bank of Bangladesh. They managed to get away with 101 million. Of that, only 18 million was recovered. Your richest criminals globally aren't your Pablo Escobars who have shipped tons of cocaine all around the world. It is your cyber criminals who are sat on their yachts in the south of France, having sort of the time of their lives. So a lot of people don't particularly necessarily mind bank heists. It's sort of you look at the old school way where you put on a black balaclava and sort of go hold up a bank. That's sort of the stuff of old movies. But if we look at a sort of slightly more morbid instance, so the Ashley Madison data breach. So just as a bit of context of this, Ashley Madison was a company which essentially specialised in helping individuals have extramarital affairs. Now, they were hacked, their whole database was leaked, and the immediate impact of that was that the company completely folded. So they were unable to, obviously they lost all their clients. Their main USP was to ensure that the security of their clients. That wasn't the case. But if we look at the wider ramifications of that, yes, the company folded. But what about things like the legal fees from divorces? What about sort of various shareholders? They lost all sort of the money invested into them. And again, on a slightly wider thing, there were individuals who were utilizing their Department of Defense email addresses. You can imagine how that sort of went down in terms of their career, and also there were individuals who were coming from with a Saudi Arabian email address. Now, I'm not entirely sure if you know what the punishment for adultery is in Saudi Arabia, but it's actually death. And there were certainly also on top of that there were known suicides. So cybersecurity, so that data breach, although it's on the company folded on top of that, and some of you may be thinking actually maybe that wasn't the best concept, and the company itself was not particularly moral, and they deserved it. But if you think about the legal fees, the death that occurred from that, it's a pretty wide, resounding, a much larger scope than just a company failing. There's a huge government cyber focus. You cannot pick up a newspaper today without seeing how much governments are investing, what they're looking for. The US are about 10, 15 years ahead of the UK in this, and have been pumping billions in, and they still do not feel that they are ready for a sustained cyber attack. Cybersecurity training is in every single national cybersecurity strategy from the UK, Spain, France, Netherlands, across the whole of Europe. And again, it's partly because we are so far behind the likes of the US. And I come back to this, that the US say that they are not ready for a sustained cyber attack. And I can tell you now, we train the FBI, the NSA, all of these sorts of individuals across the Department of Defense. And what does it come to? Well, this is a prime example of what happens, and part of the reason they're not ready. This is 2 screenshots from the dark web. Again, please don't utilize these. Do not go on to FBI websites and try logging in with these names and passwords. This is a disclaimer. Please do not do it. But on the left is a conversation between 2 hackers saying that how easy it is to evade FBI agents, and on the right is a swathe of logins and passwords from the FBI. In terms of the private sector, maybe some of you were caught up in the Uber massive hack where 57 million users were leaked, and the Maersk, which was brought down by NotPetya in 2017, they lost about $300 million. They had to do a complete IT infrastructure rebuild, 25,000 PCs, 2,000 servers. It was a phenomenal effort for them to get it up and running in 6 weeks. But these large companies, they have the war chests to fall back on. What about individuals? What about smaller companies? They certainly don't have the ability to do that. And these are quite harrowing statistics. So 50% of online adults have been victims of cybercrime, and 41% of online adults have fallen victim to attacks such as malware, viruses, hacking scams, fraud, theft, and some of you may have actually sort of been privy or even fallen victim to them yourselves. So in terms of cybersecurity challenges, what are we facing? So it's obviously we're in a ever more interconnected world. We're constantly at threat. There are more endpoints to secure, and it is becoming increasingly difficult for both companies and individuals to secure themselves. And why is that? And there is lack of available skilled manpower. Skilled manpower is very costly, and it's very difficult to assess the background, and there is very limited quality, flexible training options, which is why the likes of myself and the learning people are having this webinar today so that we can help bring in the next generation of cybersecurity professionals to fill that void which there currently is. So I'm going to go into a phishing demo now. Hopefully yes, we're fully loaded up. So this is the platform that you guys are going to get access to. You're going to get access to this very lab. So I just want to talk you through the interface a little bit. So you'll see here there's several windows and there's instructions, resources, etc. So you are walked through this lab step by step. So you could be a complete novice. You may be looking to get into this, but this is one module or one lab within one module of our certified ethical hacking course. And I think everyone. It doesn't matter if you come from an IT background or if you come from maybe you're a gardener in your previous role. It doesn't matter. You will still be able to complete this lab. And part of the reason that we're using it as the giveaway to showcase that anyone can become an ethical hacker. But so you'll talk through the instructions here, and you'll give a little bit of background on the lab. Obviously, for time purposes, I'm not going to use these. I'll just sort of shoot straight into the lab. So here you can see that the lab objectives, it talks you through, then it's steps 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go away from those and I'm just going to dive straight into the lab because hopefully I won't need the instructions. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a live phishing demo. So I apologize if it's a little bit slow. Running this with the GoToWebinar with the lab, it can be a little bit taxing. So hopefully it's not too slow for us today. Let me try, let's see if we can get this to speed up. So this is a simple phishing lab that you'll be doing. So what you will be doing is getting a credential harvester, purchasing website information as well. I think let's just check that law works. Okay, so we should be up and running. So what we're going to use something called Kali Linux. So Kali Linux is basically a tool utilized by a number of penetration testers. So this is a completely legal tool and utilized by cybersecurity professionals the world over. You're probably thinking, oh, well, that sounds quite expensive. Actually, Kali Linux is something which is free to download. So just like anything, although this can be used for good, it can also be used for nefarious purposes as well. So I know that there might be a little bit of a lag between my voice and the catch up of the demo, but hopefully not too bad. So we're going to do a simple phishing demo. And part of the reason I want to showcase you this is I'm not sure if you know how much organizations, consultancies, etc. charge for a phishing exercise on an organization of, let's say, a couple of thousand individuals, but it's in the 30-40,000 range. And from this one lab, you will learn how to deliver a phishing attack on an organization, which you think that you have these consultancies charging huge amounts, and it's something so simple to do. So we're going to do the social engineering attack. So we're going to use the social engineering tools. We're going to use the social engineering toolkit. And are we up and running yet? There we go. I apologize for the slight lag in this. We are using quite a lot of bandwidth. So we're going to use a social engineering attack. This social engineering attack. And then, again, apologies for the slight delay. We're going to do a website attack vector. And we're going to do a credential harvester. As I mentioned, all of these are, if you're getting lost on the steps, all of it is talks you through step by step in the instructions. And then we're going to do number 2. We're going to do a site cloner. So basically what this exercise is mimicking is we're mimicking copying a website and a hacker going out. So a hacker going out there, purchasing a database off the dark web, and then sending out a phishing email trying to get credentials. So I'm sure some of you have, so back in April or towards the tail end of April, you would have received an email sort of from HMRC saying, oh, you have a tax claim. Actually, most likely, more often than not, they are, HMRC would never email you. That was a phishing attack, so where they tried to copy the logos and things like that. This is exactly what we're trying to replicate. So what we're doing here, the IP address for the post back. So we are currently on Kali Linux, which is the attacker's machine. You don't have to remember that. These are all in the instructions, but that is the hacker's IP address. So we enter that. Then it says enter the URL to clone. What are we cloning? So this is an EC Council owned website. Bear in mind that this is completely encapsulated within an environment. This isn't live hacking. This is in a sandboxed environment, live online. So you're not committing any crimes. You're just simply practicing exactly what ethical hackers have to do every day. And if you can understand how it's done, that is more often than not the best form of defense. So we're copying this website. So how long do you think it takes to clone a website? You're probably thinking maybe it takes a while. Obviously, it doesn't take that long. That took about 2-3 seconds, even with using all the bandwidth that we are. So we've now ready to attack our target. So what the hacker would then do is they go onto the dark web and purchase a database off the dark web. You're probably thinking, oh, database. How much will a database cost? How much do you think a database of a few million credentials costs? It's actually very cheap. It probably costs you a couple of dollars, if that. So because of all the previous hacks, individuals' names, passwords, etc., or email addresses are all readily available. So once they've gone, they've packaged up that they've purchased their database. They've packaged it up. They've made it look smart. They sort of what they're trying to do in the context of moviescope.com is they're trying to get the email and passwords of the individuals. They're trying to phish them for those so that they enter their name and password. So what happens when they package it up? They send out the email with all the normal logos. It looks like it's a completely legitimate link. The unsuspecting victim will then go click on the link, and what shows up? Now, bear in mind that is the hacker's IP address right there. And what it's taken to is a carbon copy of moviescope.com. Now, unless you have been looking at the address bar, ultimately, you are not in you would not have seen this. You just go straight in and enter your details. So what we'll do is we'll do Philip Blake, and then we'll do a generic password, QWERTY123, enter. Oh, hang on, what's happened? Oh, then you go log in again. Where's my £10 discount voucher, which was sent out? Something along those lines. And something that has drawn me in to click on it. And then by the time you've logged in, you can't find it. Oh, it's, I can't be bothered with this. I don't have enough time. I'll look into it later. So if we just go back and we go back to that hacker's IP address, we'll use another name as well. So we have Kerri online with us. From the learning people, we'll just say that her password is password123. Log in, and again, you see it's gone from the hacker's IP address directly to moviescope.com, back to moviescope.com, hoping that they will log back in normally and be very unsuspecting. Now, where have those credentials gone? You're asking, why did we do that? If we go back to Kali Linux, we can see here that it has captured those credentials. Philip Blake, QWERTY123, Kerri Russell, password one, well, not quite 123. I've got fat fingers, unfortunately. So that is a very, very basic demonstration of how how an individual would conduct a phishing attack. Now, I don't think that there is anyone on this webinar who would be unable to conduct that. As I said, you have the instructions. Please walk yourself step by step through it. And after that, you would have completed one of the 140 labs which are included in the Certified Ethical Hacking certification. And it's that hands-on practice which organizations are looking for. So I'm going to close this, and we are going to go back to the PowerPoint. And I've got a few more slides to rush through, so please do bear with me. So in terms of EC Council, so we have a number of certifications, so from our sort of core entry level all the way up to advanced penetration testing. Now I know the learning people also have a number of prerequisite courses as well to sort of get you into networking, into other elements and coding and things like that, so which will all aid in pushing you towards the Certified Ethical Hacking certification and network defense, and then progressing along sort of our various tracks. So this is one of our tracks. We have the vulnerability assessment and penetration testing track, which obviously that's you can see there is a distinct pathway from our core entry level elements all the way up to expert. We have cyber forensics, which is relatively self-explanatory. I do have slides to get through, and I am conscious of time, so please, I will fly through these, but I will make these available. We have network defense and operations, so we have after network defense, we have incident handling, we have disaster recovery, and we have secure coding, and obviously secure coding actually transitions into our into our penetration testing track. We also have a governance. So if for any of you, I know that a number of you actually on here are looking to get into cybersecurity, but we do for the higher end. Maybe you don't see yourself going down the most technical route. Actually, one of the things that cybersecurity is missing are leaders. So the CCISO course is our leadership course, because we have been left in a world where IT security professionals have been thrust into board level, and all they're doing is talking in bits and bytes, and actually what they need to be talking about is return on investment. They need to be talking about cost. They need to be talking about budgets. So if you are on this call, if you are looking to transition into cybersecurity and you have any sort of managerial or director experience, this could certainly be something that with the cursory information security knowledge behind you, that you could transition into as well. So what are the key features of our EC Council courses? So we're the first in the world, we're most trusted, most comprehensive programs, and the most important element of our courses is that we are 60% hands-on. So you are getting practical, hands-on experience of real-world attack vectors and defense vectors through the use of our labs. So that is the most important factor, and what part of the reason that we have the theoretical courses with the multiple choice exams, but we've also released our practical certifications as well, so that not only are we sending in candidates with knowing that with the faith that they have the theoretical knowledge, but they also have the skills and abilities to back up what they have learnt or what they have learnt in the theoretical on paper as well. So who is looking for cybersecurity professionals? In short, everyone. Healthcare is actually the most hacked. This maybe comes as a surprise. Healthcare is actually the most hacked industry in the world. If a hospital's computers get locked up, they suspect of malware or ransomware, and they have to pay off. They're more likely to pay the ransom because they have to get people's blood types. They have operations which are currently running where they have to get buy-in or they have to get information of the patient records. But every single industry is susceptible, and pretty much every industry has hallmark budget to ensure that they increase their levels of cybersecurity professionals within their ranks and as a percentage of their work stuff, purely because if your trade secrets are being stolen, if your computers are being locked up by ransomware, the large organizations, they've learned their lesson the hard way. They've had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to remediate the issues which have been caused. But what about smaller companies, SMEs? There's no way that they have the same sort of war chests and can pay out of it like the large companies can. Again, across newspapers, there's calls for millennials, the widening cybersecurity skills gap. It's got worse in the last couple of years in terms of, especially in the UK, we just haven't invested enough in it. The US has been pumping money into it, and you'll see some statistics a little bit later on about where, about sort of just how far behind we are in terms of as a nation in terms of sort of compared to the likes of the US and Canada. So average cybersecurity job salaries, and one thing, this does come with a disclaimer, and I'm not saying that you can jump straight into a £72,500 job. That is not it. But considering that is 3 times the national average wage, it is that is a good salary to certainly to be working towards. And cybersecurity salaries are just going up. There's examples of CISOs who are jumping from role to role at that board level for 30% pay hikes, purely because there is just they're so few and far between, and good ones are even fewer and far between. So in terms of sort of the recognitions we have, so EC Council certifications are recognized globally, but a prime example here, we have we have sort of a tender from the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority, where they're looking for us to deliver 4 or 5 of our courses. Probably a number of you on the call have heard about the Certified Ethical Hacking certification. There are a number of our courses which are, including our CISO, Instant Handler and Network Defender courses, and our Forensics course. So it's not just about ethical hacking. There are multiple routes that you can take into the cybersecurity industry. And if you think about it, when a company is breached, it's not just the cybersecurity professionals who need to be involved. It's the C-level, it's marketing. So who's the first person who's going to call you? Probably your customers. After your customers, who's the next person who's going to call? Probably the media. Who's dealing with those? Marketing probably have a media officer sat within their organization. Are they prepped? Do they know how to handle the incidents? Or are they just going to sit there and say no comment? There has to be a holistic plan for the whole organization that is included. And that is why there are so many routes into the cybersecurity industry. Our courses are also GCHQ certified, so we have the Certified Ethical Hacker and the next step on, which is the Certified Security Analyst, which is our penetration testing course. So it takes adds methodology to the likes of the Certified Ethical Hacking. So this is something that I wanted to show you. So how does the UK compare? And actually, compared to our American cousins, we are so far behind purely because of in terms of the investment that we have. Purely because of the sorts of investment that the US have been putting into that, and even they are still not ready for those cybersecurity attacks. And the UK and the rest of the other European countries are finally cottoning on and starting to pump more money into it. Employment opportunities. This is something that I wanted to cover off with you. Go on to any job website. A number of you have probably been on Indeed. Type in Certified Ethical Hacker. Or the CEH, look at the companies who are looking for it, the likes of JP Morgan, Maersk, Bank of England, Legal and General, Thames Valley Police. So it's across government, industries, fintech, even shipping. And the most interesting one I find is Estee Lauder. So if you said to someone the best way to get into the cosmetics industry was through cybersecurity, they probably wouldn't have believed you 10 years ago. But actually, if you think about it, Estee Lauder put 5 years of R&D into a particular face cream which has got rejuvenating properties. Say if they are hacked, that recipe is stolen. Those 5 years of R&D, which worth millions and millions of dollars, has been just gone straight down the drain because someone has stolen the recipe, copied it, and is selling it for much cheaper. Again, those are just roles in the UK. It's across Europe and the world that we have. We have our reach with our certifications. Again, these are some of the European companies who are looking for certifications like ours. And so it comes on to my final slide, really, of why choose a role in cybersecurity or a cybersecurity career. So there's 0% unemployment, and actually there are some sort of professionals who say that there's actually negative unemployment, and there is such a huge skills gap that cybersecurity professionals are simply snapped up, and they really are. And with that, it is a very lucrative industry to get into. It's one of the fastest growing industries, and also the diversity of role is superb. Whether you go down instant handling, pen testing, forensics, there are many pathways to the top for cybersecurity professionals. And also your role has an impact. And I mentioned earlier about sort of dealing with the whole company. I've been to organisations now where I've had to deliver separate trainings for the finance team, separate trainings for the marketing team. It's a completely holistic approach, and also your role. You understand how much impact your role has. So if you, for example, you run that phishing attack which I demonstrated earlier, on a particular company, to your clients, etc., you're proactively finding who are the weak points in that organization, and then you're trying to fix that through training. And there's also the very lucrative salaries which come with cybersecurity as well. Now, I know I've ranted and rambled on for quite some time. So again, I've been Philip Blake, and I believe I can invite my panelists now to answer a few questions. And I think it's a miracle we've managed to go through about 40 slides in just over half an hour. So I'm going to open the question pane and see if we've got any questions. So if you do have any questions or queries, please do point them in the direction of the learning people. Fire me an ad on LinkedIn if you're particularly interested. But I'm going to see if I can answer some of these questions now. Let me just go from the top. A couple of questions about the recording. Yes, I believe the session was recorded. Yes, the session has been recorded. So I'll make sure that is readily available. So that will go out via the learning people. I believe they're going to share it on their YouTube channel. Let's have a look. I don't think there is. So there are a few, Kerri, I think there's a few questions that that might be worth you answering. Or, in fact, I think this, to be honest, with everyone on this, there are about 100 questions. So I'm gonna I'm gonna go through and see if I can pick out a couple which are generic multiples. But ultimately, what is the best option for you is to reach out to the learning people. Please get in contact with Kerri, or you may already have a one of the learning consultants or the learning people that you are in conversation with, and we can and then they will get back to you with this. But ultimately, off the back of this, all attendees and all registrants will receive a copy of our or receive an access to our demo iLab, so you can practice all of this at home, and you can see if this if you would like, if it excites you, please do get in contact with the learning people, and we can they can talk you through the process of actually getting into to cybersecurity. So Kerri, is there anything that you would like to say? I can unmute you if you like.
Hello everybody, thanks Pip. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and yeah, no, generally thank you Pip for going through that. It's a real privilege to be exclusive partners with the EC Council, offering their course catalogue. And yeah, we're here just to answer any questions anyone's got regarding careers in cybersecurity. Depending on your situation at the moment, if you're working in IT or if you're looking at this as a career change, then we can develop a learning path specifically for you to get you to where you want to be. But today it's just shown, you know, there is such a massive opportunity for anybody looking to change career into cybersecurity. It is a scary, it's a scary environment out there for businesses, individuals, but yeah, it really does mean that there are great opportunities for anybody looking for a change. And yeah, we're here to help. So yeah, any questions, just get in contact with me or a learning consultant here, career consultant, and we'll happily go through any questions that you've got. But yeah, it's been really interesting, and yeah, hopefully you'll get a lot out of the lab, and it just sort of shows you really how easy, I suppose, some of it is, and actually you don't need that much knowledge before you go on to something like this. But yeah, thanks Pip.
Great. I think there's actually a couple of interesting questions which have popped up, which I may address. So there's I think we have here we go. How can we address the huge number of vacancies and the severe unemployment rate among people who have unemployment rates of 80%? Who are suited to this field? So yeah, there is a huge gap in the market, and part of the issue is, or part of the answer to that is retraining into cybersecurity. It's there are so many roles, and it encompasses a whole organization, and it starts from the very early years as well. So I know the UK government are very slow on the uptake of this, but in the US we have we're running programs with schools from sort of 9 to 18 that early on to sort of push individuals into cybersecurity careers. So hopefully, if we can start seeding it in the immediate term, we just have to start implementing these strategies. In the short term, hopefully through retraining programs, etc., we can get and start fulfilling that or filling that void of cybersecurity issues, and but ultimately in the long term we need to aggressively invest in people to ensure that we have the right personnel in the right places to mitigate any sort of risk. Yes, again, lots of questions around will the presentation be sent to you. I believe it'll be made readily available by the learning people. Interesting question here. When security is breached, how fast is recovery when your data is lost or stolen? So in terms, and other cases where ransom has been paid, yes. There's actually the most famous case where ransom was paid was Uber. Uber tried to pay the hackers to try and cover up that they had stolen data. Have a easiest one. Have a quick Google, take a look at it. They got in a lot of trouble and fined an awful lot of money for it, or have just been fined a lot of money for it. Luckily for them, it wasn't. It wasn't sort of under the general data protection. It was happened just before that, so you may have read the sort of fines which have been doled out to the likes of BA. It's they are very, very aggressive fines and a percentage of global revenue, which it sort of reaches into the hundreds of millions with a company such as British Airways. But in terms of how fast the recovery is, yes, if you pay the ransom, there's no guarantee that they'll unlock it. They might just say, oh no, we decided we want more money from you. It's really the best route is to never ever pay. I think in terms of sort of general questions, that's about it. Again, yes, presentation and so slides, etc., will be available to you. But if you have any sort of pressing direct questions, please do reach out to the learning people. You do have my email address as well, so you are more than welcome to get in contact with me. But yes, I think there were over 2,000 registrants for this webinar. So if everyone emails me at once, please do not expect an immediate reply, because I'm probably replying through all 2,000 of them. So with that, I think we will wrap the session up. I hope it's been useful for you guys. Thank you very, very much for joining us. And please do reach out to the learning people for any further questions and queries that you may have. Thank you very much, and have have a lovely rest of your day, and enjoy the sun, stay hydrated, all that sort of exciting stuff. Thank you.